right? Seems it's time I come out with it. Maybe this is how this was always supposed to go. I was making videos a little while back about being supportive of the targeted individuals or the people within those communities. And I didn't know anything about targeted individuals up until, drum roll please, until I realized it was happening to me. It is a scary thing to come out and say because, you know that once you do, a lot of people are going to classify you. But I think that ultimately, it's high time I get over that fear, because I honestly think now I realize there's a lot of things that have happened since I came out with it or made those videos a few months ago. But I would say a lot of things have actually calmed down, but it's taken interesting turns. And I did start to think, well, maybe this is going to end now. Hoping that my creative efforts was going to get it to stop. Again, it significantly changed things. I can say that much for sure. I'm healing very well, I'm healing very well. I'm healing my mind very well. I'm even healing my body. And, I'm doing some work. I did some research. I know that there are lawsuits right now about targeted individuals. There's lawsuits pending. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't help. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm going to be a broken record, but I've even read information. There was a woman, I believe she was from Hong Kong, 2004, something like that. She was targeted. I think she was on her way to like an Ivy League school. And so I'm gonna say some things here, and I realize I need to clean all this up and I need to get everything organized. But I'm just gonna do this for right now. And who it's supposed to reach or whatever it's supposed to do, I'm going to do it. But, I believe she went to the American embassy, or she went to the embassy, and many people are, they're waiting for justice with these lawsuits, and they continue to suffer by these directed energy weapons every day, as well as like gang stalking and having their businesses and everything manipulated. A few weeks ago, my account for my clients started acting really weird. It was doing some really weird stuff. The other thing that was really interesting is, even though you could see very clearly on my phone that I was texting this particular client or texting that particular client, it was going to other clients. So I had clients reach out and say, that you're sending me stuff for someone else, which is actually a HIPAA violation, and I wouldn't violate that. But it wasn't me. I even showed proof. I was like, look, no, like I showed what I could show. I didn't show the number, and I showed proof. No, I didn't do that. There was that. There was something that happened with money that I was supposed to receive today too, which was really weird, and that company is looking into it. So there's a lot of things that have stopped or slowed down, and then there's other things that have sort of popped up. And I don't want to go into all those details now, because I think that, at least as of right now, I think divulging what my creative paths in terms of how to deal with this could, I think, potentially harm me. Maybe down the line, I think maybe at some point I'm supposed to come out with that, but I'm not going to say right now. But again, I believe that the reason I am healing, the reason why I have gotten these big breaks, has to do with my creative techniques. And so I guess that's one of the things that I want to focus on here when it comes to this particular topic. The very people that are doing this to us are the very people you're going to for help. Granted, it's own faction, it's its own beehive, and it's all broken up, and it takes forever. But it's like going back to the boyfriend who abused you for help and expecting something to be done now. You know, I question the infiltration of that whole process too, you know, because I understand how these guys work. Once you've seen a power structure and you understand it, you understand them all. That's just the way it goes. So with that said, I honestly think that maybe it's high time. I know that a lot of you have come together, and I've been apprehensive of reaching out to people. I just don't know what I'm going to get. Also, too, I think, you know, I'm sure, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm just going to be honest, I'm sure that there probably are implants meant to infiltrate within this society, as well as there are people that maybe that isn't happening, and they may have been suffering from some mental illness from the beginning. I say that very lightly because obviously mental illness is something that will 100% be used against targeted individuals when it makes it into court. So I haven't done any research in has there been any court proceedings, any of that. So I don't know. This is just an assumption that I think would be a safe one. So I'm not really sure what my next step is supposed to be. I would say that I'm not going to roll over. I'm not going to play dead. And I'm not going to give in to whatever this is. And I'm not going to let it bully me, and I'm not going to let it scare me. I'm going to continue to work on myself, and I'm going to continue to figure out what I need to do until it completely stops. Now, I will say, these are the things that I suspect. I definitely suspect, I heard that one attorney when she was talking about the targeted individuals and what they're doing, and, you know, how they're banned from, because they've ended up on these T lists, that they're banned from traveling, they're banned from going to other countries. Well, of course, I mean, you're an asset of some degree. They're doing this to you, they're testing on you. I really truly believe that a majority of us are tests. I'm sure that some of those cases that I've read about, it's not that you're a test or you're not like a test mouse. Some people ended up getting targeted because they pissed somebody off in business and bibbity boppity boop. But I do suspect that this is the next level of MK Ultra. And I think that it all comes down to AI. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Again, it's just a theory. It's fine. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. That term, that doesn't affect me. It's kind of like how black people adopted like the N-word ending with an A. And that was their way of saying, no, we own this word, you can't say it, and flipping it. That's kind of how I feel about conspiracy theorists now. And at this point, come on. I mean, just come on. If I have to say that to you, I don't give a shit what you think. You have no common sense whatsoever, or you're completely bought and sold, buddy. But I suspect that this has to do with the new branch of the Department of Homeland Security. So the Department of Homeland Security became the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. And I know that there was a journalist that went on Joe Rogan last week, and they talked about like how scary it is that the intelligence agency has like taken over. And really the intelligence agency is like the new military industrial complex. Like it's definitely a warfare against the people. 100% I believe that. And I would encourage you to go look that up. The Joe Rogan, with the journalist, and I think it was like how the intelligence community took over or something like that. So in that, he talks about how the cybersecurity agency, it became that the war in Iraq, when that whole thing ended, there was a bunch of people that had nothing to do. And so now they're ending up in this new program. Also, he said it really scared him that there was all these former FBI and former CIA agents that were now contractors associated with these programs. And he talked about how much control they had. He actually talked about how he was sitting in meetings and how these people were brainwashing people within the media, and that freaked him out. So that's a pretty big deal. I do believe that the goal of all of this is about creating a new faction system. I believe it's about creating, instead of having a class system, a new faction system, because the new faction system would be more controlled. It would be under more scrutiny. And, forget it. You're done. You think one thing and you're fucked. Sorry. So I know I got to try not to swear. But so I believe that the FCC is involved. I found a video, and yes, I'm going to have to figure out how to link it. I'm going to have to get my internet self together so that, I can back up some of the things that I am saying I either know and leading to a theory. So, there was somebody that I saw who he is very, very intuitive. And he said to me that he had suspected that, with COVID, that was another way of accurately pinpointing people. Because think about it, when we're at the grocery store during that time, we all had to stand 6 feet apart, and you could very clearly and accurately tell that person's, or better, you can see that person's precise location. So there could have been some sort of like attunement or, I think there was something with that in terms of the satellites as well as the internet signals. Now, I found this video that was explaining radio frequencies and cell phone towers and how they bounce information and bounce the frequencies and get them to our phones. And they talked about how GOVs make money off of these radio frequencies. And it was the FCC and it was another company. And it was through this lottery program. Now, I'll tell you, that was really interesting. That perked my ears because I was suspecting that all this data collecting and all of this stuff done by these big top companies where they can really accurately tell what we're feeling, what we're going through by what we're buying, like Amazon and eBay. And I would encourage you to go check out 60 Minutes special about how eBay people targeted these two individuals. And it was pretty vicious. So, but that was great that was on 60 Minutes. So now I believe that this is all being done. I believe that we're kind of testers. And I think this is being done to continue to mind control us in a more sophisticated manner. There was even some information that came out about how they can run frequencies through the phones. And so I study all that stuff. I study neuroscience. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not any of those things. I've always been very interested. But frequencies have an effect on the brain. Transcranial something, magnetic resonance. There's a particular type of tool that helps people with depression. Well, it's probably there's stuff that they're doing that can create depression and anxiety as well. So I suspect, not claiming anything, but I suspect that this cybersecurity and infrastructure, they're probably the ones that are in charge of combing through all of the information, figuring out how we affect one another, what we do with our phones, like figuring out our feelings, our thoughts, figuring out all of that stuff through all of that technology and figuring out how to assign us to a social score. There was a man that I found, again, another resource that I have to cite, who said, don't kid yourselves, one already exists. He talked about the FICO score. And I did suspect that. Like, I did suspect there probably already is the next evolution. It already does exist. We don't know about it. It just hasn't been shined publicly, and something major would have to happen. But they've moved so fast on all these changes in the world. So now there are, I think it was like 3 companies. There might have been more than that. There was a bunch of companies that control the radio waves in Europe. And then we had like 2 here, and then I think 1 in Australia. But in any case, how they made money was based off of this lottery, that these regions would get entered in, and then they could control the frequencies or something like that. So this leads me to believe that this is all connected to these big top companies and the intelligence agency, because they're breaking everything down. You know, and they're all working like with DARPA. They're all working together. There was a woman, Whitney Cummings. She's done a lot of digging, and she's put a lot of things together. One of the things that she said is, you know, a lot of people like me, we know that the Pentagon is no longer the military controllers. It's the intelligence community, and that it's actually being run out of Silicon Valley, right? Okay, so. And then there's Amazon Go with your cell phone, and eventually everything becomes cashless and all of that. So I think that the targeted individuals, I think, is very much tied to this. Like, I think there's something about us being sort of these tester mice or these tester guinea pigs. And it's like, okay, so this person who we've assigned to this group, or now if they go into this neighborhood, we run this frequency at them, and it makes them hypersensitive. So I found some information about that, how these frequencies can be used to make you hypersensitive. So your nerves are just exposed, and any little thing just stresses you out majorly. I've gone through that. The other thing that I found very interesting is one of the ways that these directed energy weapons or these frequencies affect you is by screwing with your alpha. Oh my God. When I read that, it was like, I remember before I knew that I was a targeted individual, before I'd gotten evidence, and my evidence is pretty substantial. And that's a fun little story, but I'm not going to tell it right now. But before I knew that happened, I remember going through periods where I was like, when I focus really intensely on something, I can focus intensely on something. But when I come down from focusing on it, it's like, I got to figure out what to focus on. Like, I had to stay busy and I had to stay focused. I couldn't just go, all right, let's relax. Okay, so when you're relaxing like that and your mind's just kind of wandering and there's no pressure, you're in alpha. Those alpha waves or those alpha frequencies are running in the brain. That's also where the body can start to heal itself. So these directed energy weapons are actually affecting alpha. And that I know is true, because I remember thinking, I was never like this before. I mean, I love focusing. I love working on things. But when my body would go, hey, you're done. You need a timeout. You need to chill. Just put this on the back burner. No matter how stressful something was or how much it meant to me, I could bring that down. My body would say, no, you're bringing this down. My mind would say, you're bringing this down. I don't care how hard it is. And I'd have a period of chill out, and then I could go back into focusing on it. I couldn't do that up until I figured out what was going on, and then I figured out how to heal that or combat it, have some sort of defense against it. I couldn't do that. And I was never like that. So it's keeping you in a hyper-vigilant state. It's keeping you not trusting. It's probably also affecting a lot of people, making them feel like they need to isolate. It's also, too, it would make sense that you would isolate, because if you do come to the conclusion that you're a targeted individual, that's really scary. Like, these people can see what you're doing on your phone. They can listen on your phone call. It feels like there's not a damn thing you can do. Every single thing you do is being monitored. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras in my office. There's cameras everywhere. And it's like, it feels like you're already in a mental, emotional prison. And so I strongly suspect that those of us who are being intensely targeted, it's about that. It's about figuring out what we'll do, how we'll handle it, and figuring out how to pull those strings in a more sophisticated way, so that they can figure out how to apply it to everyone, again, a theory once they've created this faction system and there's now social scores. So now this is going to be even more far-fetched, but I'm going to say it. Again, I have no evidence, and absolutely, you can put me in the conspiracy theory box. But as anybody would know, when you're trying to figure out what somebody is doing to someone, you do have to go off into these territories, but you have to go and try to figure out the evidence. You have to be able to connect things, right? Now, I definitely have heard some things, and I've come across some information that would tell me that this is probably the case. What Bill Gates was talking about, like the next pandemics, and they're already talking about this fungal stuff that's killing people and all this other stuff. It would make sense to me that they would roll something out, and I swear I can already feel, no, they can't because people are paying attention, blah, 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 blah. Well, hopefully that is the case. But if their goal was to roll out another pandemic pretty soon, and this one, they figured out enough to know that they really could. I mean, they really did scare people into just this, regardless of, I don't want to go down the whole COVID rabbit hole, but again, I've been listening to a lot of scientists about it, and the scientists were like, how the hell? That's so gross. There's gross negligence doesn't even cover it, how this thing could get out of a lab, first of all. And second of all, the fact that usually it's a head scientist that will run the lab. But that it was actually the person, I believe it was a woman in Wuhan, that was actually a financial backer who was running it. So what the hell is going on with that there? All right, so leave that where that is. Now, let's also look at, Bill Gates is like, yeah, we've got more coming. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole about him and vaccines. I've heard a lot of that stuff, but again, there's a lot of things about that would make sense, but again, I think I'm not going there. I feel like I don't have enough body of evidence to support that or to go into that. But do I think that he is a shady character? Yeah, probably. I think all of these guys are. But I'm not going to go into that. So, but he has definitely, next pandemics, right on. Oh, it's coming. Just obviously he didn't say it like that, but it would make sense that the next pandemics I can theorize that these ones would have to scare people so badly, right? Like the first one, martial law, no big deal. No big deal. Destroy the economy, which is another topic for another day. So, I mean, people just walked right, did no research, and look at all the stuff that's coming out about it now, and they were able to get people to do that. So it would make sense to me that either they do put something out that's worse next, or there's an attempt to try to do it again, but this time it would be about organizing people into different communities. Like, okay, we have discovered that through contract chasing and all of that stuff, blood types, we figured out all these things, and there would probably be a lot of like, what the fuck? Like, you guys got a lot more information than you told us you would, and there would probably be a lot of red flags there that a lot of people would like overlook. Or they would have no, yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay, just keep signing on the dotted line, more of your rights away. It would make sense to me that they would try to set people up to go into these different factions by blood type. So this is where they're separating families, they're separating kids and their parents, they're separating people. And it's like, this is temporary, this is what we've got to do. And maybe in the beginning, there's a way to reach out to people, there's a way to talk on the internet, but eventually, who knows? Because should that be correct? Should I be right? And that's not a conspiracy theory, right? Which that would be. This is my conspiracy theory. I'm all right with that. I'm okay. I can admit that. But again, I think it's a safe one to keep an eye on. That if they put people into these different factions by blood type or whatever, and it's like, okay, this is how we have to do this to keep everybody safe, that if by the time they get everybody into that, done, and so I don't know, because I also think too that this sort of electric fence, like I said, I've had experiences where I felt like I knew that if I went over into that territory, if I went there today, that I was going to feel that thing before I knew what was going on. And that, I think, supports the theory that they're sort of using those signals and the radio frequencies, and who knows, exactly how the satellites, obviously there's the X-ray satellites, the gamma satellites, there's all different kinds. And the Department of, where is it? Oh yes, Bill HR 4432, Department of Defense Appropriations Act of 2022, I think is a very interesting one. I think it's very telling. Sure do. Throwing a lot of money at space, medical health. What was the other thing? Cybersecurity, infrastructure. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, like what we're talking about right now, it's all, that's all, they all work together, it all goes together. And I have work to do. Again, that's Bill HR 4432, Department of Defense Appropriations Act. Somebody else who I think has come up to be interesting is Representative Chip Roy of Texas, Department of Justice. On YouTube, it's the Department of Justice is targeting Americans. Now, he talks about some stuff that had, like, some injustices that have happened in the schools and how the representative was laughing. Go watch it on YouTube. But I think that he could be somebody who is good to reach out to. So, I mean, bottom line, I'm somebody who is about, you've got to do the homework, you've got to break things down, you've got to do the best you can to get the evidence and get everything together. I also am somebody who believes, people always talk about, when we talk about conspiracy theories, who are they? You know who they are? Follow the money. Nancy Pelosi was one of the top funders, or she's got like a lot of stock, a lot of investment in Amazon. And I am certain that Amazon is doing stuff too. That's pretty shady. I mean, if eBay's like top people are screwing, go watch that 60 Minutes. If they're screwing with people and they're targeting them and they're harassing them viciously, again, not all of us are getting harassed quite the way they did, and maybe there's reasons for that. But nevertheless, these people think that they are God. Trust that. I totally believe that they think they're God. I think that they have so much money coming to them. The Defense Department is just pouring tons and tons and tons of money into these people. What I think Elon Musk was like, hey, Pentagon, yo, guys, we need like a lot more money to get Starlink over in Ukraine. And I don't know about any of that. So somebody would be like, well, here you go. Well, I would still want to break that down. Like how much money is being allocated to these agencies that we're being told is for this good cause or this new, field of advancing something, and it's not actually that, or not all of the money is going there. They do things like this all the time. This is what they do. This is literally common sense of how power works. Okay, that's 101 of understanding these power structures of money. So I think that looking into the top companies and looking into the politicians who have the most money invested, and then don't look at the stuff that they say, look at the things that they have gotten done and what's the cause, what's the effect. Look at the things that they have gotten done, and you have to be able to look at, this is where it's going to take a more discerning mind, but somebody who is grounded in intelligence, where it's like you're looking at this and you're able to see the connections. But again, you've got to actually, don't force a piece where it doesn't fit. If it don't fit, toss it aside if you don't know. But this is where I think that making the mistake of just, I don't know why this is happening to me. I don't have any control. I can't do anything about it. I'm scared to talk to other people. I'm scared to be connected to other people. All of those other things, I think, is a big mistake. I think it's exactly what they want you to do, what they want us to do. I think every day you have to realize that as long as this is going on and until it's over, you are in something, and you need to buck up. You need to be strong, and you need to do research, and you need to go inside and figure this out. You need to do the work. So I think that finding representatives, finding people who you truly believe based on what they've advocated for might listen to this and reaching out to them. So I'm definitely going to write to Chip Roy. Like, I'm in this now. I gave these people an out. I gave them an out. They didn't take it. Granted, they did back off significantly. Thank you. Thank you for that. But who knows? Probably now things are going to get worse again. So, and sometimes it'll come in waves. But I think that the best thing to do is to find representatives. I'm gonna tell you this. Somebody, and I don't want to name him. I'm not gonna say his name. He was a friend of mine years ago. Former whistleblower. He was a veteran. And then when 9/11 hit, he went to go work for one of the security companies. Him and his buddy. And they went to go work for one of the security companies, and they were witnessing our troops trading guns and ammunition and things like that for cigarettes with the insurgencies that were building up. And if any of you have watched any of those documentaries about there's a really good documentary on 9/11 called No End in Sight. Ooh, that is very telling. The fact that these people went over there, were sitting there for months, didn't have pencils, didn't have tables, didn't have chairs, didn't have an interpreter. They were there for diplomacy. They were there to connect us, right, and try to figure things out. And they weren't given anything. And our troops were over there just chilling, nothing to do for the longest time while these insurgencies were building. I don't want to go into that either, but that's another follow the money. So no end in sight. That's a good one. So this particular friend, he watched that and he was pissed. His father dies. He comes back when his father died to go to the funeral, and he reached out to the police. He reached out to the FBI. The FBI brought him in and said, "Good job, son. We're going to make you an informant." Okay, see, this is what I'm talking about when you're going to the very person who punched you in the face for help. Just saying. Common sense. So he went to the FBI, did that. They made him an informant officially, and then he went back, to Iraq or I forget where exactly he was, but then he went back. Sorry, this probably should be very obvious. Then he went back. He was there with his friend, and a couple days into being there, they had gotten a heads up that our own troops were coming for them, that they were claiming he was a T, which is their thing now, right? That's why they could do that. They could do anything to you. If they claim you're a T, the National Defense Act, unless of course they change that law, and I haven't looked into it, and I probably should. What if you're a T, you don't get a right to a phone call, nobody has to know where you are, blah 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 blah. They did that during the Obama administration. All right, so which is part of the reason I think that during the big protest happened here, in Chicago, the veterans were throwing their medals back. So anyways, I'm going off. So now he did eventually get captured, and they took him to Camp Cropper. And he was all over CNN. He was all over all the major Fox News. He was all over explaining what happened to him and why it happened. And he was in the middle of a lawsuit with, we'll say Rum is a part of his name. I don't know why I said some names here. I don't know. Anyways, it don't matter. They ain't gonna stop. I may as well just go for it. So he was in the process of suing him. And so, but comes from a poor family. I had a point here. I'm sorry. He comes from a poor family, and definitely a lot of shit in that family. Okay. And not very educated and a lot of problems. And those people wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote to senators and all sorts of people, and they didn't give up. And it took a few months, but eventually they gave my friend, I think, some clothes on his back and a plane ticket home. And that was that. Just like that, it was over. And at that point, that's when he came back and was like, no, it's lawsuit time. My point of this is that they did it. They got him out. They tortured him there for about 3 months, I believe. And probably he shouldn't be alive, but they got him out. You see where I'm going with this? So I think that what we really need to be doing is we probably need to be doing some research on these representatives, and we need to try to get everything as organized as possible, and we need to start bombarding them. Okay? That's what I think. I think that going through the justice system, now I don't know, I didn't look into that. I don't know if there was already some sort of, court hearing but I would guess it's going to take a very long time before anything to get done. And in the meantime, that person's life has already been destroyed, right? I don't know. Now, one would say, well, but isn't writing to these guys? Well, I think due diligence. I went and found this guy, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, who, was going off about Americans being targeted. These programs are supposed to be protecting us, but they're actually, he said he actually talked about Chicago and all of the crime and all of the things that are happening here, right? And he said, you're letting these people go out here and kill people. You're letting all of that slide, but you're going after claiming these people are terrorists, claiming these people are this or that. You're going after, or you're not helping them at all. What the hell is going on? People who talk like that, that's who we need to reach out to. And we need to do it in numbers. So I would say at this point, and I gave them an out. I gave those sons of bitches an out. You don't want to stop your shit, then I'm not going to stop my shit. You don't want to leave me alone. You don't want to stay out of my stuff. Your whole goal is to embarrass me. Well, you know what? I've been embarrassed my whole life. Embarrassment is just part of, I'm a comedian. Well, hoping one day to be. I tell jokes. I write jokes. It's fine. You know what? It all adds to my world. Okay? You're hoping to make me go crazy, or the other thing that I've stated, which has to do with how I expand my own electromagnetic field via meditation. And I've already said, I know what you're trying to do there. I'm not going to do it. I know. The jig is up. You're not going to get what you want. And how much you're spending millions of dollars. You have drones follow me around. And, at some point you got to go, okay, this person costed too much money. It's not working out. And I gave you your out. You didn't want to stop your shit. You messed with my money again this morning. Well, now here we are. You put me in this position. And so, sorry. So what I'm saying to you is that example to me of my friend coming from a poor family, coming from nothing, coming from people who would not be listened to or not cared about in society, any of that, got it done. Probably this is our best path. But again, do your research, get all your stuff together, stay grounded, stay logical. Maybe at some point I will share more information about ways to heal your central nervous system. Yes, listen to me now. Those of you who are being targeted, you have to understand that you are being targeted by frequencies. Now, there are neurolinguistics programming. You can go get neurolinguistics programming. You'll probably have to do it a lot. You'll have to make sure that you find somebody you can trust. Make sure that you do your research on them and use your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, don't let that person mess with your mind. But neurolinguistics programming, they're not going into your brain. Go look it up. But that's one way to deprogram. You have to deprogram. Whatever it is that they're programming you to fear, whatever these things are doing, you have to deprogram to get back into your essence. Transcendental meditation. Meditation at least 3-4 times a day. Understand that you are important. This is happening to you, which means that you might have to adjust how you work, what you do. You're going to have to monitor things. You're going to have some safety protocols in place. You're going to have to figure out certain people that you can trust, especially if you can get people who have money, who are powerful. Get some information to them. Be a good salesman and be your own advocate. Make sure that you get information out there so that if really, really bad things start to happen, like kidnapping or whatever those kinds of things, they get like that. that there's people who are like, oh shit, she said this would happen, he said this would happen. And these are people, if you can get people who, you know, care about you, trust you, and have any sort of position of power that you feel you can trust. Again, you can trust. Or get creative if there's something that they can get out of it. But you have to, I would be careful with that one. You'd have to be somebody who's already really, really, really good with strategy. And so I don't want to say anything to somebody who's not, and then you put yourself in a situation. So we need to figure out all of the senators, all of the people that we can reach out to, the ACLU. We can bombard the ACLU. We can bombard the ACLU. I think it's high time for bombardment. And again, my theories are this is tied to the intelligence community. I think that this is tied to the intelligence community, DARPA, and Amazon, and all of these other big companies, data collecting. I think that this is something that's international. I think that this is something where it probably has something to do with the next new phase of technology. And that particular theory, I will not go into. But yes, I do have one. I just think right now, even though there is a lot of evidence for it, I think that it's too out there. And, you know, maybe we're just not there yet. And hopefully we don't get there. So protect your central nervous systems, deep breathing, mindful thinking, mindful meditation. Learn your essence. Learn what your energy feels like. And then learn to feel when you're in the energy of something it's not. These types of programs, I can tell you, if any of you have been through narcissistic abuse, it's going to feel like that. It's going to make you feel like you want to fold into yourself, feel fearful of anything, hypersensitive to everything, overthinking everything. You don't know what you can trust. You want to isolate, you know, all of those things. It's like you're with a narcissist. It's like you can't trust yourself. Everything you're doing is a mistake. You should fear, 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 fear. That is not normal. This level of anxiety is not normal. So this is first. Everything that you need to do needs to be about protecting your central nervous system and healing it. And there's a lot of different ways. And I hope that some of you come up with some things that I don't know about that you can start doing. I would say the other thing that we could do at some point is I think I'm not going to say that yet because I think that I don't want to give too much information away, but I do think that there are some next steps past doing this. So I think it's high time going to the embassy and waiting for a damn court case. Come on, come the fuck on. And who knows, thank you to the attorneys that are taking this on who are legit. They're in it to win it. But I know that if I was these guys doing these things, the smart thing to do would be to get attorneys or people involved who are actually working for me, and we're screwing with things. I know how they work. They infiltrate everything. Like freaking Scientologists. Like they do. So with that said, we need to operate like Scientologists. I know that that's going to go against me, what I just said right now. But the Scientologists, you got to understand something. We're the Scientologists were the only ones to sue the IRS and won. The only ones. Because they got all of the people involved in their church, in their groups, all of these people. What they did was they got them to just, when they were getting sued, they had them all individually sue back. Martin Luther King, during his protests of that one diner, that restaurant, he didn't go run around doing protests. They had people come in, sit down at the counter, like spend $1, pay for something that's very, very cheap, and then took forever with that thing. He slowed up their money. This is what I'm talking about. These are the kinds of strategies we need. Those other ones, they don't work. They don't work. And you also do need to be aware, and you need to get right with it. Your life already is on the line. You are prey. You are food. You are energy. You are something to be sold. You are being sold. You have been sold to these people. It's already happening. It's already happening. You cannot run from this. I know I tried. And I even tried to give these people an easy out. They're not going to. I'm get aware of all the things that they're going to use against you to try to come at you, and get to know who you are and learn to be solid in that. Don't be afraid of the term conspiracy theorist. Don't be afraid. Get over certain things. So this is what I think. This is what I'm working on. You guys brought this on yourselves. You wouldn't back off. You messed with the wrong person. I'm in this now. Bottom line, point blank, let me let you know again. Every single person, every single entity that has ever come after me in my lifetime, yeah, I may have taken chunks, but I'll tell you what, it's par for the course. Par for the course. But every single one who has ever messed with me, because I was born as a scapegoat into a narcissistic family system that I got away from, which shows you how strong my mind is, because most people don't, has all paid for it, and not by my hand. Sometimes things come in out of nowhere, things you can't see. And with that said, I was born for this fight. I was born to be a target. I was born for this. David Goggins, I was born to be this. This is a call for all of you to rise up, be stronger, get smart. Do what David Goggins does. Everything that they can say about you, throw at you, make you feel bad about yourself. Every act of emotional manipulation. Go outside, go for a walk. Maybe don't go outside, go for a walk yet, because if you got people targeting you, so be careful with that. Walk in your house if you got to, and just play over and over and over in your mind. You're this. You're lazy. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. We own you. We're going to take everything from you. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill your whole family. David Goggins, that shit. Go listen to it over and over and over again, and face it and see what the enemy is telling you, what they're saying. And again, we didn't make them an enemy. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. If we were in a system that protected people, I hate standing in lines. Oh, I hate standing in lines. I mean, most people do, but man, I really hate it. I would stand in line for hours. I would stand in line for hours to vote. I would every single time, or vote or whatever, I would stand in line for forever to do what needs to be done to support a system that is supporting a justice system, a Congress, a government that is supporting its citizens. I would be happy to do so. I'd be a proud patriot. And I think in many ways, I didn't realize this, but I think I am. I would come to a complete stop. Always, at every stop sign, every time. I wouldn't break not one little teeny tiny rule, which I'm sure this will be used against me too. But you know, all the little things that we make mistake because of human error, I would be so appreciative, so grateful for such an ethical and just and a system so full of integrity and honor. I would rise to protect it with everything I got. Why wouldn't I? I actually love people. I am a healer. You targeted the wrong one. I am not going to stop because you didn't stop. I am going to go the distance, and I'm already preparing all my next plans. You know, I'm sure you know that. You're watching everything I do anyways. And this is a call for the rest of you who are targeted. And this was long. But for those of you who need to see it or whatever, who knows, they're probably going to bury this too, or they're going to try to send it to my enemies to embarrass me. Well, go ahead. I live for embarrassment. That just makes me funnier. Okay? Been fat most of my life. What else you got? Okay? This is a call for you to be a warrior. This is a call for you to rise. And this is a call for common sense. Do not rely on these old tactics. They don't work. This is what we got to do.